Right, here we go. So I'm going to show you guys how to make an electrolyte beverage. Using some simple stuff, the dextrose I bought off Amazon. The salt is kind of bougie salt, but you could use table salt. And then baking soda, some juice, and some Tajin, right? So often you hear about carbohydrate, right? You need a fuel, you need carbs, right? You need sugar, the body needs sugar. But I think the unsung kind of hero amongst like endurance athletes is really sodium. And stable electrolyte intake, especially salt intake, is of the utmost importance in endurance athletes, especially those in like Southern California, kind of the desert, dry, hot kind of conditions where you're climbing a lot. And that's because of neurons, right? So any kind of nerve communication in your body, whether it's the brain, the muscle firing, and stuff like that, requires sodium and potassium, right? It's something called the sodium-potassium pump. Your body keeps a concentration gradient higher with the sodium. So sodium's very, very important, like threefold magnitude or something like that. So salt's very important. Potassium's easy to get from food, so mainly salt is the thing we have to worry about. And this is important because it regulates emotion, right? So if you have unstable salt intake, right, you're going to have increased neuronal excitability, and then you can maybe sluggish, right? You won't fire as well when your muscles shoot off. And then your mood's going to be very unstable, which could lead to anxiety or irritability, right? So kind of unpredictable mood. And this is exacerbated if you have a high sweat rate, right? Or if it's very, very hot. So like SoCal, climate change, stuff like that. If the temperature's hot, you're going to lose sweat faster. And you're going to need to replace it. This could lead to fatigue, brain fog, headaches, muscle cramping, all that other stuff. So you probably lose about like 800 to 1500 milligrams of salt per liter of sweat. And the average cyclist loses probably about anywhere from 3/4 to 1.5 liters of sweat an hour. So quite a lot of sweat loss. You're losing something like a gram of salt an hour on hot days. So if you have low salt, your cortisol is going to be really high. Adrenaline is going to be high. That's going to increase the anxiety, right? So you might have some mental health issues in your athletes or them struggling, right? So active athletes probably need about 3 to 5 grams of salt a day. This is difficult to achieve if you're like performing, right? Because you're eating a diet that's very clean, very natural. So there's minimal added salt, right? It's just salted to taste. So like your dietary salt is going to be very low, but your dietary potassium is going to be high from the fruits, vegetables, grains, various other things. So potassium is not really an issue here. It's really the salt, right? You're going to have to go out of your way to add it to foods and then be mindful of adding it to your drinks around your rides and things like that. So I did some quick calculations, right? If you're climbing on a warm day, you need about half a liter to 3/4 of a liter of water, and then you need about 500 to 700 milligrams of salt an hour. If you look at that, that's probably about a 1/4 teaspoon to half a teaspoon of salt. And if it's hard or hot, meaning if there's a lot of climbing or it's a hot day, you probably need about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of salt an hour. That's going to be like a half a tablespoon to 3/4 of it. Teaspoon. So half a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt with about 1 liter of water an hour, right? And if you want to know how much sweat you lose, it's really easy to calculate. So you just go weigh yourself pre-ride, right? Absent of clothes, right? Because they hold on to water and stuff like that. So butt naked, pre-ride, weight, go ride an hour, right? Zone 2 or whatever. Track your fluids, so drink like half a liter. And then weigh yourself butt naked post-ride, right? So to derive sweat loss is going to be the weight you lost, right? So let's say you weigh 185 and then you go ride and you weigh 183. That's 2 pounds weight loss, right? So that weight loss divided by 2.2, right? There's, 1 liter weighs 2.2 pounds. That'll give you something like how much weight you lost in liters. You add that to the fluid consumed, right? Half a liter. And that'll give you probably about 1 liter, 1.2 liters, whatever. That's going to be your sweat loss per hour rate, right? And then you could adjust the bottles accordingly for your body. So it's really easy to dial in, right? And I'm going to show you right now. Boom! how to make a bottle.
Butterflies. And we're hooking left, a little bit of downhill. Then to the right, and then it gets steep. Off the line. Dropping in, watch for traffic. Woo! That's it. Into the pine trees and the cacti.
All right, so we're finally gonna make our bottles, right? We put juice in here already. I put about 250 mLs, that's about 30 grams of sugar. If you fill up this 750 ml bottle halfway, right, that's gonna give you something like 45 grams of sugar from the juice. So, and then you're gonna get antioxidants and other stuff from the juice if it's good juice. So there you go, 45 grams you're starting off. Let's say you wanted to bump it up to 60 grams, right? So then you supplement with dextrose or table sugar, right? So a tablespoon of sugar, right? Tablespoon of sugar has something like 15 grams. Let me just double check, right? 13 grams, something like that. So, yeah, you could use a tablespoon, right? I think like 1 tablespoon would be enough. It would get you close to that 60. But definitely if you're going to be riding harder and stuff like that, you can do a couple tablespoons, right? Get it up to 90 or 100, right? Straight Tour de France level. You don't need that much. I'd say like 1 tablespoon. That's a lot of powder right there. Boom. Just put it in. That's like 60 grams, right? And then let's say I need, I don't know, about 1 gram of salt. So I have the conversion, right? So a 1/4 teaspoon of this Celtic sea salt has minerals and other stuff. Is about 450 milligrams of sodium equivalents. So I want about 1/2 teaspoon. I have a 1/2 teaspoon right here. Just kind of round it a little bit. Boom. It's like 1 gram of salt right there. And then all you do, fill it up to the top. Boom, with your water. So now you have 750 mLs. You can put a splash of Tajin for flavor if you want. Boom. Right? Go get the lid. Put the lid on. Shake it up. Boom. Electrolyte drink. So simple. So easy. Right? Hopefully we deal with that brain fog, the irritability, some of the anxiety, and stabilize like your neuronal firing so that you don't get the cramps, so you're able to perform, so you're able to, you know, kind of boom, 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 up the climb, downhill, all that stuff uses a ton of salt. Every little nerve firing, every little muscle contraction, a lot of salt, right? So definitely make one of these, dude, and then try it out, and boom, post in the comments, right? And then let me know what's up, and then I'll probably follow up with like a eating pattern or something cheesy at a next video. So